This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel today. Well, not a good day for the Blue Jays, as you might have seen, but however, we continue to have a great little offseason here with the Edmonton Oilers. Obviously, the Bakersfield Condors still alive in the AHL playoff hunt, which means we get to continue to see a couple of young guys on the Oilers' blue line do their thing and really show us what they are made of. I know I don't have an update. Hold on, let me see if I can find an update from the Guelph Storm on our guy Dimitri Samorukov down there. And your 2018-2019 OHL champions, 35 minutes ago. That's what happens when you wake up from a Sunday nap disoriented. The Guelph Storm are your OHL champions, so that fits perfectly into the narrative for today's video, guys. Well, Dimitri Samorukov continues to show that he is quite something, and that allows us to take a look at the Edmonton Oilers prospects who really pose interesting opportunities for success. That's the title of the video today, because the big thing here is for these prospects, they don't really, quote-unquote, have a playing spot in our lineup next season, because you look at our top 6 D-men, and you've got Sekera, Clefbaum, Lagesson, Russell, Nurse, and Benning all under contract. So the top 6, if Ken Holland likes what he has in the top 6, he does not have to do anything. They're all secure. They're all locked up. Life is good if you are Ken Holland. However, when you've got a list of names that includes Bouchard, Jones, Bear, Persson, Samorukov, and Lagesson, well, suddenly you've got yourself a very challenging task, and I think that's exactly, to my point the other day, what Mr. Ken Holland is seeing down there in the AHL. You know, he's talking about Bouchard, he's talking about a couple of guys really liking what they're doing down there. And the other, wildcard, I'll use that twice over in this video, is the wildcard is Logan Day. He got that AHL contract this year, yippee, 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 but what does that mean for next season? I think next season, depending on what the Oilers can do with the creative contract situation, they are close to the 50 contract limit. He would count. What do you do? I think Logan Day very much so might just earn himself an NHL contract, and if he's getting an NHL contract, he earns himself some NHL playing time, no doubt about it, because you don't want that NHL contract counting against your limit without being able to utilize the guy per se. But let's get right into it. So Evan Bouchard, what the reasoning behind this video is because you have a guy that's leading the way like Evan Bouchard. He's got all those points in all those games down there in the AHL so far, and that's playoff stuff, guys. That's playoff stuff. And that's kind of the unreal part about Evan Bouchard at this point. He went out of the playoffs in the OHL after losing to the Guelph Storm, if I'm not mistaken, if I can remember that far back. And you see, so far in Bakersfield, he's put up 6 points in 7 games in the AHL playoffs. I mean, not playing a ton of minutes from everything I can gather. I've seen a couple of the stat sheets. He doesn't play a lot, but to do that, 6 points, 7 games, play a little bit of power play time and stuff. Guys, Evan Bouchard getting the job done, and that is exactly to the point that he really needs to be, and in my honest opinion is, a 99% lock to make the full-time 1920 Edmonton Oilers roster. Man, I really love this 1920 term. Just can we take a second to appreciate that 1920 term? Love it. Ken Holland threw us all for a loop when he first used it, but now it's really catching on in Oilers land, and I'm really loving it. But yeah, so Evan Bouchard's that offensive defenseman who brings absolutely everything the Oilers need, everything the Oilers might per se expect out of a guy like Andre Sekera. But if you can necessarily switch around the lineup a little bit, maybe you don't have Andre Sekera, maybe you have Evan Bouchard per se. So Evan Bouchard, the kind of thing I have to look at here is he's 198 pounds last weigh-in on Elite Prospects. You gotta think if he can gain up to about 207 or higher, 207 to 215 at 6'2", 6'3", he would be an absolute beauty of a beast on that blue line for the Oilers next season, being able to lay the thundering hits, block his forward attackers out, and definitely move the puck effectively. Everybody's screaming for a guy that can do that. That is Evan Bouchard. That's why we drafted him. That's why Oilers fans lost their mind when he fell to us in the draft. Let's not kid ourselves. The next two here on the list, this is where it gets really fun because these guys are lower draft picks in our system. They've been coming along for years, and they just keep getting more exciting. And this is what happens when you properly develop a defensive prospect. They get more exciting as the time goes on, as their time gets nearer. Caleb Jones showed excellent flashes in his time this year in the NHL. A little bit outmatched, but that's what you expect. I mean, Ethan Bear's the other guy next down on the list, and he's had a full season to season without NHL exposure. But going back to Jones, he had that. He played the same, sometime in the NHL, and he looked the exact same. Flashes, but he was outmatched at times, and that's the tough part about these two. These two are homegrown, low draft picks, built up in this system and in junior, really well developed throughout the Oilers management system, from Peter Chiarelli, Keith Gretzky, to now Ken Holland, as he will take the reins and decide what happens to these two. And it would be an absolute shame to see either of these two traded. But the best part about these guys are they are lower draft picks, lower end talent per se, but they are absolutely so exciting, so kind of, there's a lot of stuff we could do with them in the NHL kind of say. And that's kind of the intrigue that gets a lot of people talking as to them being trade bait. I mentioned Ethan Bear as trade bait to the Maple Leafs for Connor Brown. It's just that nature of how they've developed, how they're on the cusp of being ready. But when you look at an Evan Bouchard in a top six that's already full, and you're trying to add two or three of these guys, it's not going to really work, especially when you stack up Jones over Bouchard or Bear over Bouchard, with Bouchard being this offensive defenseman that the Oilers so desperately crave. Now, not to say Bouchard could come in bad attitude, bad camp, and be back in the minors this next season. But you stack up on paper and you see where it sits. And I mean, out of these three, these are the three I think crack the Oilers' defensive core next season for a more than part-time role. But that's a tough part when you look at Jones and Bear trying to compete over just Bouchard. Remember, top six is full. Now you've got the wild card, and this is where I said I'd use it twice over. I've already used it on Logan Day. It's Joel Persson, because Joel Persson is a tough card here. We've seen him sit around the organization over there in Sweden with Vaxo for how many years now, and now he's got himself a $1 million deal. This guy's got a gray $1 million deal on Elite, or on on Cap Friendly. So that's going to be the interesting part for Joel Persson, is what do the Oilers do with his $1 million cap hit in the 2019-2020 season. And you see he had 31 points in 50 games played in 2018-2019. He had 8 games in the Champions Hockey League, and this guy just puts up points wherever he goes. And the thing is, he's a right defenseman. It's tough to see, except for he's small. That's another thing. He's 5'11", 187, so he's a little bit more solid, but he is small, and that's exactly it. You sit here, we can discuss all about him, but until he comes over to North America, goes through a camp, and we actually know what he looks like in the North American Oilers game, we don't know nothing. And he's a total wild card. That's the thing. He's the total wild card in which this totally blows everybody out of the water. He could go from priority number 4 to priority 111A over top of absolutely everybody in the lineup. When you talk about Bouchard, Jones, Bear, Samorukov, Lagesson, Day, any of those names, he could easily just bring himself up, because he is a veteran defender already, even though he's only coming into his first season. He's 25 at this point. He will be 26 on March 4th, 2020. So you see where I'm going with this again. There's a lot of age aspect to the Joel Persson discussion. Now you've got a guy in the Oilers system as well, Dimitri Samorukov, who, again, another wild card kind of deal, but not quite. I'm going to waste the term on him. He just needs a year to season in the AHL, right? Dimitri Samorukov, OHL champion with the Guelph Storm, could be a late season call-up in my estimation. That's the thing. And this really sets up everything I'm getting towards at the end of this go-around with these guys. So Dimitri Samorukov, guys, we all know what he's doing. Absolutely lighting the OHL on fire in these late playoff rounds. He's going on to the Memorial Cup. It is exciting times for Dimitri Samorukov and the Guelph Storm. But realistically, you got to do the same approach and get him into some AHL games before thinking anything about NHL. Maybe a late season call-up, if anything. Now, the other guy playing down there in Bakersfield this year is William Lagesson, and William Lagesson poses a question because he's 23. Okay, so William Lagesson's 23, small cap hit for next year, 2019-2020, 741K, and that really allows you some flexibility. You see, he's kind of come around. He's played 2 seasons, or actually only 1 season in Bakersfield. Pardon me. He went over this year and played 27 points in 67 games after having 13 points in 49 games in the SHL last year, Swedish Elite League. So he's coming in, and I mean, playoffs, he's had 4 points. He's been effective, and this is another guy that I think low-end talent per se, and you could really use him as that shuttle defenseman, right? If you have an injury, or if you need a 7th defenseman, or you need somebody that you're not necessarily looking to develop into a star, you're just looking for a serviceable Matt Benning type defenseman, William Lagesson seems to be that guy, and he has that chance to outshine what your expectations are. So don't get your hopes up too far, but also don't close the door on him and say he ain't going to do anything. So guys, why does this set the Oilers up for success in 1920? Why this does this is because Ken Holland, as I said the other day, has the flexibility to make moves, right? I mentioned you have Barrett Jones as trade bait, maybe even throw in Lagesson in there, maybe possibly. But you have a couple guys you could use as trade bait. You have Evan Bouchard, who's everything this Oilers defense core needs, all wrapped in one. You've got Joel Persson as a wild card that you could say, hey, you know what? If we need to take a gamble, let's take it and use it. Right there, right? So it sets up a lot of possibility, and that's exactly what the Edmonton Oilers need to be successful in 1920, is every avenue of possibility to be open to them. And right now, I think as Ken Holland is seeing down there in Bakersfield, it is very, very, very much so that way. Guys, I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. Thank you. Sorry, I've been stuffed up this whole video. I'm still on the mend from the medication and from the flu. I will catch you guys, as always, in the next one.